I like going hunting, just me, my hound, and my gun. Chasing them deer, rabbit, and squirrel, now that's my kind of fun. I like going fishing too, I'll go on any whim, looking for the big bass, the crappie, and the brim. Give me a wide open field to walk through. Give me an ocean so deep. I wanna ride the longest river in the world, or maybe climb the highest mountain peak.
Well, folks, we've had numerous occasions where people have got lost out hunting, or airplane crashes, or wars, or all kinds of things. And we're gonna bring you a program that we think you will find real interesting. It's gonna be how to survive in the wilderness. And for that, we got J.T. Dabbs, who is a graduate of Birmingham Southern, a botanist, and also a fellow that's worked in the scouting program the same as I have for a number of years, over 10 years, teaching folks. And if you would, J.T., tell them some of the folks you teach and some of the things you do in this survival business.
Well, I've been around, you know, in Alabama and a few other, even out of state, a few places, and have lectured with a lot of conservation groups, Birmingham Audubon Society, Sierra Club, backpacking groups, you know, scouts and school kids, and been involved in some of the outdoor education programs in Birmingham schools and places like that, and teaching.
Well, the folks that know you, that have talked to me, said that as far as outdoor plants and edibles, that you're about the best they are. In fact, you've even written a book about it.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to take them, and we're out here in a remote area in central Alabama, and we just came into the area, and JT is going to take us on a stroll through here, and we're going to cover what you can eat, what you can cook from the wilds, all types of things, and just we're just going to take it one step at a time. And first thing up is going to be watercress.
Watercress.
Okay.
Okay, this is the watercress. It's the common watercress you can find growing out in the wild. And there are a couple good things about watercress. First, you know, before we talk about what parts you can eat, where it's a good indicator. Where watercress grows usually indicates fairly clean water.
I see.
So you'd be a lot safer in getting water to drink out of this area. Doesn't mean there are no organisms that can make you sick. Still need to purify it if you have that capability, but it's a good indicator there's no chemical pollutants or anything like that. Now the plant itself, it grows usually in large colonies spread out, you know, as you see here.
Well, we've got a nice little clean stream coming right through here.
Nice pretty area.
Uh-huh.
And it usually grows in fairly shallow water, slow moving water. And the leaves are fairly distinctive. And looking at it, it's just a fairly simple little leaf, and it usually kind of grows down, and when you pull it up, you can see the little white root hairs growing off each stem, you know, like that. And if you were to gather it, you know, you'd usually take the top part like that.
Okay.
And use it. And if you were to taste it, it's got a mustard almost taste, a peppery, radish taste to it.
Very tender too.
And it's good in a survival situation. You could eat it raw.
I got you.
You could cook if you had a way to cook. You could cook it and just cook
like
it as a green,
greens,
just
right?
like turnip greens, and cook it up. It's usually best when you cook it to cook it in water, pour off some of that water and add fresh water and cook it some more where it won't be quite as strong.
It's got a slight mint taste to it too. Kind of a peppermint. Turnip.
Yeah.
It tastes a little bit like turnips. That you would grow radishes.
Yeah, it's got a good radish taste. It's good. And if you were to use it at home, you know, if you're out and you want to gather or whatever, you know, not in a survival situation, you can use it in the watercress sandwiches. You know, just chop it up, add mayonnaise to it. You could use it in soups, add it to different things like that.
I see.
One other thing I want to point out on the watercress is that sometimes it's so succulent and it takes up a lot of water. Sometimes the raw plant, if it's in water that's been contaminated by, say, animals excreting in it, and it's polluted like that, and it's still growing in there, it may contain some disease germs on the plant itself. And if you were to eat it raw in some of those areas, you could pick that up.
I see.
And you can get rid of that by either washing it in like a purified water, iodine mixture, or some other purification tablets.
I got you.
Of course, if you cook it, you don't have to worry about it. You know, you kill the germs.
Well, that's a real good one for survival, right?
Real good one.
Watercress.
It's fairly common in the southeast.
All right, let's move around here and see what else we can find. All right, JT, what we got here now?
Well, this is not an edible plant, but this is a poisonous plant that every outdoorsman should be aware of. This is the poison ivy or the poison oak. And it's a lot of people get confused on, you know, how to identify it and what it looks like. Well, good thing to remember is leaflets 3, leave it be. You know, and if you look at it, leave it be.
Okay.
If you look at it, it's got, some of these are torn up, but there's a good one. It's got 3 leaflets, and usually it'll have a little notch on the side like that.
Right there.
Right there, yeah, you can see that one there.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, poison ivy is just a plant, you know, it's not one you would eat by accident, but, you know, when it brushes against you, you get the rash from the toxin.
Well, now, you was telling me that most time you're going to get this, not necessarily growing up a tree, but on the ground like this.
Yeah, on the ground. If you were sitting down, you know, or sleeping or whatever, you might not look at it, or if you bedded down at night, you know, might bed down in some of it, you know, or if you were climbing a tree or leaning up against a tree, you would get it. But sometimes this can get pretty high.
All right, so when you're wandering out here, you want to avoid this.
Yeah,
now, it doesn't bother me at all. I've never had a problem.
Well, it doesn't usually bother me either, but, you know, some people it bothers real bad.
It'll get them
and some people, it may not bother them when they're young, but as they get older, you know, they change.
All right, let's move on over.
Archie, I was telling you about the poison ivy and the poison oak rash, you know, that you can get in the woods.
Right.
Well, they found that there are several plants that you can, you know, rub on you, and the juices will keep you from getting the rash. And this is one of those plants. This is the jewelweed, and you can see the flower. Real
it's a beautiful
real gorgeous
flower.
It's also called spotted touch-me-not. Is another name for it.
That's a deep little orange flower on it.
Speckled flower.
And it's got a little round hook on the very bottom of it. Look like a handle.
Almost like a handle or a tail there on it. And it just kind of hangs down, and you usually found in water or near water. And you know, you just take, you know, some of the stems, or you can take the entire plant and you just crush it up. And it's kind of feels like a aloe vera, you know, aloe cactus.
Are you talking about in the? Oh,
right,
I feel the juice.
Feel the juice coming out. And you just rub that on you before you go into the woods.
Out of the stem,
out of the stem. And,
I see.
And that will keep you from getting the poison ivy rash. And this has been, they've studied this in the laboratory and found it to be true. A good way to do it, if you want to fix it at home, you can also eat the plant. You can take the young leaves and you take them, the tender ones, and you cook them in water, you know, just until they're tender. And you take that water, it's got the medicine in it. You take that and pour it into an ice tray. And you freeze it and make little ice cubes, and then you just rub them on, you let it melt, and it spreads the medicine on.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And you can use that. Another thing.
Beautiful, Doc.
Another thing they found that it's an antifungal agent, and it can cure athlete's foot by soaking your feet. So you can cook your jewelweed and then take your cooking pot and soak your feet in it, and you can
eat the jewelweed,
eat it,
fix athlete's feet, and keep poison ivy off of it at one time.
Good
All
point.
right. Man, we just full of stuff. Let's go in and see what we can find right over here. JT, looks like we got a beech tree here with a big old holler in it there.
Looks like a pretty good one.
Yeah, everybody usually carves their initials on these things. They make it seem like they stay for years. But what about the beech tree now? I've heard that the nuts are edible on them.
Well, the beech tree, the American beech, they have nuts that are edible. And if you can find them, problem is finding them.
I've never found many, but I have found a little old bitty nut about like that right there.
Right, they're real small, but they're tasty if you can find them. But the problem would be finding enough to make it worthwhile. And it's easy to identify. The leaves.
Wait a minute, looky right here. Look what we got right up here. We are in luck.
Oh, we sure
looky right here.
They got beech nuts.
And they're opening up. Look right here.
Well, we're in luck. This is good.
There's a little nut out of it right there.
Take them and just pop it open. And there's
it's a little triangular looking nut.
It's a burr-like. It's got little burrs on it on the outside.
Well, we're fortunate enough to
and these be ready in the fall. Around the end of September, October. And
now a lot of them will go ahead and fall on the ground, and they're still fine if they're not fermented, right?
Still fine then. You can use them.
So there's your beech nut.
And this one's got enough. You know, in the fall you could find enough to really use these.
There's a lot of them up through there.
This one is loaded. Yeah. So that's real good.
Real unusual to find them in the South with that many nuts on them.
And the leaves are distinctive. A good thing about the beech, that in the winter the leaves stay on it. Almost, they hardly ever fall off. So it's easy to see in the woods. You see a tree with lots of tannish-looking leaves. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a beech tree.
And a good smooth gray bark.
Good smooth bark. Even when it's big, it has a smooth bark, which is unusual for a large tree.
That's great. Well, let's move on here.
Well, we've got here a pawpaw. Now this is the dwarf pawpaw. We have two 2 or 3 different types. One is the big one, and then we got the smaller ones, and this is one of those. And the pawpaw has a fruit that's edible.
Well, you know, they told me the Lewis and Clark expedition lived nearly totally on
pawpaws. Sure did.
It tastes like a little banana, don't it?
Kind of. It's been described as tasting a cross between a cantaloupe and a sweet potato. Yeah. So it's a weird taste, and some people don't like it and some do. An easy way to identify it, if you just take the leaf and crush it and smell it. It's got a very strong odor, and it smells kind of like a tomato plant.
It does smell like a tomato.
And that's a good way.
Smell like a dead ripe tomato that you just pull off.
That's right. And that's a good way to identify it, like that. And so it's a good little plant. If you can find one with lots of fruit.
We're going to try to find one today sometime.
Yeah, we can probably find one with maybe some fruit. And they might find some that are ripe. They ripen in August.
I got you. All right, a little wet right in here now. What we're looking at here, JT?
This is another common aquatic plant you can find, you know, if you're near streams or creeks. And this is the arrowhead. You can see why it's called an arrowhead, the shape of the leaf. It's also called duck potato or wapato, which is what the Indians called it. And in the winter, you dig these things up, and they got these little tubers, and they range anywhere from the size of a pea to a golf ball. And you can use them like potatoes. You can cook them and eat them raw. You know, they're real tasty. Problem is, when they're ready to gather, it's usually cold, and you got to get in the water, in the cold water, and get them. But the Indians used it a lot, and the Indian women were the ones that gathered it. They would get out and with baskets and get barefoot in the water and check out the mud.
This is a very staple plant that could be used.
It's real common as a major food product by many of the early Indians.
See. JT, cattail's your favorite plant, isn't it?
My favorite plant. It's a really good edible plant. You can.
Now let me say this before we get into this. You spent some time studying these things. Tell me a little bit about what you did.
Yeah, I've just completed about a 9-month little research project on the cattail, looking at its potential use as a domesticated plant to use, to grow and use as a food. And studies in the past have shown that the starch from the cattail root, and these are the roots, the rhizomes. You can peel the outer covering back on here. You can just rip it open, and it's white inside, and it's just packed full of starch.
All that in there.
All that in there is starch.
And that's edible.
That's edible. You can wash it out, separate starch from the fibers, and about an acre of cattails will yield about 5,000 pounds of starch that can be used. Compared to rice and corn is around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, something like that.
So that's a heavy-duty starch food.
Heavy-duty starch food. It produces a lot of seeds. The seeds, I've found the seeds can be easily germinated in the laboratory and can be grown, and it's, some potential, I think, is a food product like that.
All right, now show us now the root. Now, how would you eat the root now? What would you?
Well, if you were in the wild, in a survival situation, you wanted to eat the root, you would wash it off real good, and you would just take your knife and you'd peel it back, and you could just chew on it. It's got a lot of fibers, and you chew on it, and you
sort
get that.
Like sugar cane.
Kind of that same
and
texture.
Digest the starch.
Right, and just pull out the starch and spit the fibers out. On the root, right.
But this is the best part.
That's the best part.
All right, let me show them how this works. Now, you just reach down in there.
Yeah, let me.
Do it on that stalk right there.
Here's one right here. You want to do it as fast in spring and summer, and you find a small one.
Okay.
You just reach down and you grab it and you just pull it. Okay. And it breaks loose right at and then you just start peeling out the tough leaves. Until you get down, and you got the white part, and it's tender. You can eat it raw.
Boy, that is. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
Good in salads. It's good raw, and you can just there's tons.
Where you figure you ought to peel it up to? About right along and
about right in there.
4 inches, 4 inches.
You want to get it where it pinches between your fingernails. You can just pinch it off like that. Usually.
Oh yeah.
You want to kind of peel off.
Oh yeah.
Now if you cook it, you can leave more of the tough stuff on, and just fantastic.
Boy, it's good and tender too.
Right, and another part on this cattail. This is a shoot here. Okay. This will grow and eventually spring out another cattail.
Okay.
And you can take these things and just kind of tear them off like that.
All right, let me see how that tastes.
And it's usually tender, and you can cook it. Those will make really good pickles. Just take vinegar and sugar, spice solution, boil it, and pour it over them in a jar and make pickles with it.
See if that tastes like the stalk. That's got more starch in it.
More starch in it.
And boy, it's tender too.
Oh yeah, real good. Now, another thing That's not all on the cattail. Another thing you can do, if you
I see why you call this thing supermarket.
Yeah,
now.
this is good. Now this is a seed head. Okay. Now this one's too old here, but these are good. If you were to break this open, you can see all the seeds here. Okay. Now this is good fire starter material. Okay. It's good and dry, and that lights real quick, and it's good to start fires with. Okay. So that's a part that's not edible that you can use. Now.
Excellent.
Now
Go ahead.
When these are immature, it's green and it's covered with the husk, and it kind of looks like a little corn on the cob. And you can cut it off and peel it, and it looks like a little ear corn, and you take it and you put it in water and you boil it, and you eat it just like corn on the cob. It's got little kernels and everything. It tastes real good. I've served it to different people and they couldn't believe it. You just butter it up and taste it. It's real good.
Put your little salt and pepper
Put a little salt and pepper and season it, and then later on, as they mature, when the pollen forms, you can take the pollen, you shake it off in a bag, and then you use it to make bread. Beautiful, gorgeous bread. It's really, really good to eat. And then another thing, the leaves are real good to make baskets and to weave and make containers with, you know, so it's a lot of good things.
Well, we don't want to let them forget what you just said there. You caught me off guard there going to a fire building. This has got an excellent, fine tinder there that we can get into that on building some fires there.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. So that's the supermarket right there.
That's it. This is the #1 plant if you're out and you find these. And the thing about the cattail, it's found worldwide.
Worldwide.
If you're dropped off and if you're lost in Europe or Africa, Asia, South America, North America, wherever, you're bound to find the cattails. You know, maybe 5 to 10 different species of cattail worldwide, and they grow from temperate regions to subtropical areas, usually in a moist, wet area. When you find them, they're in big colonies, and it's just a really good food.
So any of you folks out there get lost and hadn't got anything to eat, if you see a cattail, just park, because you're there, right?
That's right. That's it.
You found. Really, it's as good a survival food as we got anywhere.
That's right. You could just set up and just eat away. Good food.
You never would eat all these cattails. There's enough cattails for an army right here.
Right. Good plant.
All right, now we're standing right in the middle of a swamp section.
Right.
What's that? We got one right here. You just telling me about.
This is a mallow. I'm not exactly sure which mallow it is, but there's lots of different kinds of mallows, and they're all edible. And mallows are kin to okra. It's direct, and it's also kin to several other plants. It's kin to cotton, and all these are kin to each other. And this is the little pod here, and you use it kind of like you would an okra. You would break it off and you'd cook it as a vegetable. And if you look here, these are the dried up ones. You can find the little seeds in it.
Just like okra.
Just like okra. Now the thing, mallow, if you think the mallow is kind of like marshmallow, okay? The original little marshmallows you buy in the store, the original marshmallows were made from the mallow.
Is that right?
You know, what they would do, they would dig up the root, and they would cut it up and they'd boil it in water on some species. Not all of them would do it. And you boil it and it makes a very thick liquid, and it's kind of like egg whites. You can actually whip it up to a froth like egg whites, and you can add sugar to it, and that's how they made marshmallows back before they used. Now they do it, a different way. But that's one of the uses of this plant. But it's a good plant, and you find it growing, in swampy areas like this, different places.
Well, that is great. Now, what else we got right here handy?
Well, we got back here, we've got some bulrushes, or rushes, a lot of people call them, and they're usually found growing with cattail. And
they like the same
type habitat they grow in. And the seeds, you can take those and you can grind those up and make a bread with it.
In other words, we do it similar to the dock seed.
Similar to the dock.
Take your hand, blow the chaff out.
Right, and if you dig it up, you can find the little root rhizomes and roots. They're kind of starchy. They're smaller, but they're starchy like the cattail, and you can make a flour out of them too. And then, of course, the stem is good to make baskets with. It's another basket.
And this is what Moses' basket was made out of in the Bible times.
I believe so.
The bulrushes.
A similar type. They're worldwide, again, like cattails. You can find all different kinds and a lot of different names for it. But it's a pretty good common plant. And the stem, you can kind of peel it down and you kind of chew on it. There's some of them that kind of have a sugary taste to them, some types. But it was used pretty much by the Indians several different times.
Well, you see anything else right here handy? We'll scout around.
That's about it. We can probably...
Well, you don't have to go far, do you?
Not far at all. Probably see some arrowheads over in here, and there's some jewelweed back over in there.
Back over on the other
side, and a lot of different things like that. So
all right, let's go around the other side and see what we can find.
Okay.
Now, JT, we're in this swamp here, and if we was going to be here a while, I need to set some snares. You see all the animal tracks here, we could set a snare right in that trap, right in that path right there.
Yeah.
Whatever's traveling, we could catch him on the snare trap.
Yeah, game trails are a good place to set up those traps.
A little bit about this lemonade from that
yeah, that's lemonade from the sumac
Boy, that
berries.
is good.
That's good. We got here's some acorn cornmeal that we've ground up acorn meal, and there's the acorns, and there's the acorn bread you're munching on there.
That's mighty good bread, making them acorns.
Got some sassafras tea, purify your blood. That's good for you.
Have a little of that right there.
Got some pickles and stuff I'd made beforehand.
What'd you make them from?
That's made from pokeweed.
Pokeweed
That's some good stuff right there.
What's that other stuff?
This is some glasswort. That's a plant that grows down on the coast, which is a good one.
What, you do pickle this stuff?
Yeah, just pickle it with vinegar and a little sugar, and there's some thistles, and these are some things that people could do at home.
Well, that's great now. Jay's written a Alabama Wild Edibles book, and we're going to come back in a minute, a little while, and give you the information on how to order it from him. He's done a fabulous job. Cooked a fine meal here.
Try one of those mallows.
Yeah, these mallows are fine. These are the ones that look just like baby okra.
Baby okra, right.
And folks, we've had a good time out here with J.D. Dabbs from down there at Hueytown, in it, J.T.?
Hueytown Concord.
Hueytown Concord, and he knows his stuff on survival and wild edibles. And y'all stay tuned again next week for some more outdoors with Archie Phillips.